Welcome back. In this video we're going to look at misrepresentation for the purposes of the assignment. So let's turn first to the assignment itself. So here we have two steps required. One is to set out the conversation between an employee and a customer, and it needs to have a statement of fact which is incorrect, so it's a misrepresentation. And secondly, a statement of opinion which you believe could be a misrepresentation. Once you've got through those two steps, you have two misrepresentations which you can be sued for. And so you're going to go to remedies and simply look at the two remedies of damages and cancellation. Now this assignment has been modified during the course of the year. So you might notice in the version you've got, it may have one C as well, and it may refer to B and C. So you've got A and B, so you need to answer A and B down here. And for A and B, you need to talk about the remedies. Okay, so before we start, let's just summarize the law of misrepresentation overall, then focus in on what's required simply for the assignment. So we need a false statement of fact. That's step one. And a misrepresentation is a fact which is incorrect. It doesn't matter if it's an honest mistake or not. We simply say, has the person made a statement of fact? If it's wrong, then it's a misrepresentation. And we can go through to the next stage, which is to talk about remedies under the Contractual Remedies Act. Now in the middle here we have a set of examples of statements which are not misrepresentation. So business puffs, which are simply outrageous statements. This is the best sleep out possible you could ever buy in the world, for example, if my business, would not be a misrep. Opinion is what someone believes, and normally it's not a misrepresentation unless it's made by an expert or it's not made honestly. And an expert is someone who could be considered to have deep knowledge of the subject, either by training, qualifications, or experience. So in the case of a person in business selling product, they will often be considered to be an expert in relation to their own products and services. Statements about the future is something you're going to do in the future, but it's not a misrep unless it's not made honestly. Silence, I don't have to tell people things. But if I tell something that's true, but the implication is false, that's a half-truth, that's a misrepresentation. I tell you the car I'm selling you has an engine reconditioned 3 months ago, and that's true. The implication is that it's a good engine. What I don't tell you is it ran out of oil 3 weeks ago and overheated badly. So I have two parts of the statement. The statement the engine's good, the implication it's still good. Half of that's true, it was repaired. The other half, that it's still good, is not true. So therefore it's called a half-truth. Okay, we also have under silence, if you say something to somebody who was true at the time, it becomes false and not corrected before the contract's entered, that's a misrepresentation. Fiduciary, such as agency, we talked about, and Iberima fides, for example, contracts of insurance, a special category of insurance which we don't have in our business situations other than areas such as insurance, parts of employment. Can be considered good faith under the employment law. However, for our purposes today, we are focused on a false statement of fact as one example, and an opinion as our second issue. So that's what you're looking at, a misrepresentation as a false statement of fact plus a opinion which you believe you could be sued on. Okay, and once we've got through deciding we've got a misrepresentation, we're going into remedies. Now, to cover that is a diagram in this document which is on Canvas, which sets out steps in a little more visual way. So here we have what's the statement. So you set out the statement in your assignment. Is it a fact? If yes and it's wrong, it's a misrepresentation. If no, and it's an opinion, which is your second example, and it's by an expert or not true, then it's a misrepresentation and you can be sued for those statements as well. After that, you simply go to the Contractual Remedies Act. Damages under Section 6 if the person's induced. Cancellation under 7.3a if the person's induced by the statement. In the case of damages, that's all you have to do, and you go straight through to getting paid according to the court's determination. However, in cancellation, you also need this. The effect has to be substantial on the contract or agreed essential at the negotiation phase, and then you can cancel. So cancellation just means you stop the contract, don't have to perform it anymore, and then we go to common law for damages for cancellation. And in misrepresentation, we're already entitled to damages. Now just turning to the legislation, so we're following through on our primary source, as always. So all the Contractual Remedies Act does is give us remedies. It does not tell us what a misrepresentation is. That's why we decide it by looking at the facts first, and then we go to section 6 and we go to section 7. So let's bring up section 6, and what we have to establish in section 6 is a party to a contract induced by a misrepresentation, innocent or fraudulent, so we don't care if it's honest or not, entitled to damages. You notice it says made by him or on behalf of a party to the contract. So if an agent makes a statement on your behalf, and that includes employees, then you are considered to be making the statement. And so we end up with the basic rules here that you are induced, it's a misrepresentation, damages. And that's all we need to be saying from section 6. So you have to decide on your facts, has the person been induced by this false statement of fact? Was it a reason that they would enter the contract? Okay, so let's go to section 7 for cancellation and open that up. And you can see in here we have to go down to section 7.3a for cancellation. A party may cancel here if induced by a misrepresentation. You notice it says innocent or fraudulent, made by or on behalf. So if you make the statement, your employee makes a statement, then the right to cancel if and only if expressly agreed the truth is essential or the effect is substantial. So essentially we can break this down to saying we have the right of cancel if induced by a misrepresentation and the truth is essential or the effect is substantial. In those categories, we can cancel the contract. So let's turn back to my example, which was my sleep out buildings delivered on site, and look at some of the issues here. So just to summarize again, we need a statement which you can be sued on, misrepresentation, and we need to look at remedies. So first we need the statements, of course. So here's some of the statements come up with which might be made. An employee gives an inside height measurement, which is wrong. They say it doesn't need a building consent, which they may believe because they think they're only talking about the actual building, but we know that if it's got sanitation in it, it does need a consent. Now that could be considered to be an opinion, but it would certainly be the opinion of an expert. It could also more likely be considered a fact because it's easily proven. We expect to install next week is a statement about the future. If we don't believe it, it's a misrepresentation or have no reasonable grounds to believe we can do it. It's very attractive on site is simple opinion. That couldn't be proven right or wrong. Warm and dry is a statement of fact because that can be proven against reasonable standards. Now this last one down here is a statement of opinion. Will increase the value of your property by thousands of dollars. Now, we are installers of sleep outs. Are we in fact experts in this area? Now, this would certainly be a breach of the Fair Trading Act, we'll look at later, Fair Trading Act. But in this case, it's a misrepresentation. So we've made a statement of opinion, and could we be considered an expert in this regard if we've been selling these for several years? And that can be argued both ways. So I'll use that as my example for filling out the assignment submission. Okay, so here we have the form to fill out. Now I'm just going to put in here the height of the building is let's say 2.5 meters according to the employee, but is only 2.4 meters. Now is that a misrepresentation over here? The statement is a fact as it can be proven right. It is wrong, so it is a misrep. That's all we need to be saying there. In the second one, I'm going to talk about my opinion example. So the statement we're talking about here was the building will add thousands to the value of the property. Now this is opinion and is not normally a representation. However, if made by an expert, or dishonest, will be a misrep. Now the issues here is we could be considered an expert. I'll just fix up the formatting on that. So we could be considered an expert because we've sold many of these. We could also be considered to be dishonest because we have no reasonable grounds to believe this. In other words, we're just making this up. So in that case, this would be a misrepresentation. Now that's as far as you need to go again with that. Now here we're going to talk about the remedies. So section 6 damages if induced. So statement 1, induced because caused the person to contract, a reasonable person be affected by this statement. So you're just considering, in the case of your particular facts, do you think this is a situation where a person will be influenced by the particular statement you've come up with, in which case they're induced? So for my statement 2, I'm just putting in here that this would influence the reasonable buyer, so we can conclude the buyer was influenced, was induced by the statement. Okay, that takes us through there. So damages are available. Then you need to consider, I'll just put a 6 in there because I left the 6 out, section 6 damages. Then you need to consider section 7, which is cancellation. And so we have section 7.3a, and we should be putting brackets around those, induced as above. So we don't need to repeat things here. Section 7.4. So this was not agreed essential. So we need to show it has a substantial effect on the contract. Now in this case, a thousands of dollars is clearly a substantial loss of benefit, which is B. For statement 2. For statement 1, height is important and may be substantial. If the buyer was 2 meters, was 2.1 meters tall, that's rather a big person, but never mind. So cancellation's available. Now what you want to also be doing here is to say the effect on your business. Is this a substantial effect? Is this risk important to your business? And that's just you concluding as to how important you think these issues are. Okay, and just finish off with a picture. This is from Napier down at the harbour, which is very pleasant.